Can science create the perfect bite? Well, today we're going to taste test a bunch of theories that have been designed to maximize flavor, texture, and satisfaction. And then we will put all of those together into one plate of food to see if we can create the perfect bite. And for the perfect bite, we need the perfect collaboration. I think we have one. Santi from Food Theorists, welcome.
Me? You. You really like me. I'm so happy to be here. I've had 12 breakfasts already, so.
Great. Have another 4.
Oh, good.
It feels odd welcoming you to our channel when you've welcomed us here in Miami, but we're all set. Are you ready?
I am extremely ready.
Let's do this. This is going to be great. Oh.
I warn you, I'm going to do that for every single time.
Oh, please, yeah. I think that was deserving of a
Honestly, look at the color on this.
Wow. Wait.
I don't even know what.
Ooh. That has got some.
I should call her.
And on that segue, I'm going to lean into the phrase breast milk.
What? Oh no, he's got a thing about this.
Not about breast milk, but just about the concept and the theory.
This is going to be a slog, I'm telling you now.
Okay.
As humans, we are wired to love foods that are salty, fatty, and sweet, because there is nothing in nature that you can forage and find that is all of those three things in one, with the exception of breast milk.
Oh no.
This isn't yours though, right?
So needless to say, this is not breast milk. However, what it is a coffee and maple panna cotta with a miso crumb.
Wow.
So we're playing into umami and salt, sugar and fat with a wonderful wobble because breast milk.
I mean, that is jiggle.
Honestly, that can't be real.
Dig in, see what you think.
So clearly we need to get a little bit of everything here.
Yeah. Oh wow, it smells great.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
It's interesting the contrast, like the stark contrast between like something that's a little gelatinous and then nice and crunchy and firm.
Yeah, it definitely plays with the texture as well, doesn't it?
Yeah. The flavor is interesting. The umami is coming through more than anything else.
Yeah.
And like my brain is just seeking that out immediately. It's just like ding, 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 before I get a little bit of sweetness and saltiness in there.
Yeah, it almost tricks you into thinking it's savory.
Yes.
Before then you start getting like that really sort of delicate sweetness from maple, which has such a sort of, it's so identifiable because it's not just a big sugar hit.
And there's lots of other dishes that you'll know and love that lead into this, so like a salted caramel cheesecake, but also in savory dishes. So like a hot honey fried chicken where you've got the fried fattiness, but you've got the sweet and the sort of salty element. Those three in partnership mean that a dish is something you just want to keep going back for more of, because in times of scarcity, hunter-gatherer man would have grabbed it and eaten as much as possible, because you don't know when you'll next find something so rewarding.
What is interesting as well, you've obviously got the theory with tasting here, is just that triangle.
The caveman trilogy.
You've also got the cold and the crunch on top of that.
Yeah.
This is going to be a difficult one to beat in terms of seeking the perfect bite. So I'm fascinated as to where you're going to go next.
See, what I would add to that, if I may, is I feel like I was kind of saying before, they meld very well, and I kind of was looking for a little more contrast in that bite.
Something
something to punch through.
Yeah.
And so I think that is what I'm going to be seeking, like a caveman, for the next couple bites.
Lift away. Oh,
Sushi.
Okay.
Sushi.
a plate of sushi, very inviting for sure, but the real discussion here is fermentation. And that's what makes potentially a good addition to a perfect bite. So I'm going to pass you some sake.
Oh, lovely.
So in particular for this pairing, something we stumbled across several years ago on a trip to Japan was how well sake pairs with food, because on, wine pairings, beer pairings, they work really well and they balance acid and tannins and alcohol and sweetness levels. But sake also plays with that umami, which allows your tongue to basically taste in another dimension. It's one of the only fermented drinks, broadly speaking, that leans into it, and it's because of the use of koji.
So should we take a
bite and then
a simultaneous just like
just all in?
Yeah, it's one bite, right? I feel like
One bite and then kanpai.
all right.
Or a dip and then a...
Just,
Oh. Okay, yeah.
it amplifies it. Really, the taste of the
Yeah.
salmon, the rice. And it's interesting, if I may nerd out just for a little.
Please do. That's exactly why you're here, Santi.
So, the interesting thing about sake is that it's filled with amino acids, but particularly glutamic acid, which is kind of the biggest driving factor behind umami. Glutamine, and a lot of you might find that familiar of a word because MSG is monosodium glutamate. And that is what really is just flavor in powder form. And you find essence of that in sake. So that's why it's just such a phenomenal drink to pair with food or just have by itself. It really just tickles that tingle.
Yeah.
I just made a new phrase.
It
We'll
tickles
go
the
with it.
tingle.
Yeah.
It tickles my tingle for sure. It's great. What's so good about this is it really almost just turns the volume levels on your taste buds up whilst you eat, and it draws out the flavors of both. And that sort of fermentation, it can be seen as a bit of a it's funky, it's this, it's that. But actually, no, it's like a delicious rounding.
Yeah. It's like taking a magnifying glass inside your mouth, kind of, and just really zooming in. It allows you to pick out the flavors. It's honestly just astounding from like a science perspective and gastronomy perspective.
And the last thing just to note on this particular theory is that so often what grows together goes together. So this is a rice fermented drink that's going with sushi, but the same would apply. And the analogy I love is if you walk into a forest and you've got wild boar in the autumn with mushrooms and chestnuts, but you've also got hardy herbs like thyme and rosemary and sage, maybe some apples on the tree. It's like all these things grow together and they go perfectly together. And I think that as a rule of thumb gets you to like the Holy Grail, and it goes back to hunter-gatherer.
And I grew up around sake, so we go together. That's for sure. Done. That was perfect.
Okay.
Wow.
Rocky Road.
It looks like you went for a stroll in the backyard and just like grabbed chunks from the ground. There is something appetizing about it, which I don't know what that says about me.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's some interesting things here.
So we are talking
Oh.
things, and we are talking texture specifically. So by adding and considering different textures to a dish, it's enough to keep your mind active while you're tasting. So you're not just mindlessly eating, you're actually thinking about the textures as you crunch by. There's been all sorts of scientific research that suggests that the crunchier a crisp, the more appetizing it is. However, what I've made for you is some Rocky Road, and I've put a number of textures inside.
Interesting. Cheers.
Cheers. Aloha.
Perhaps testing the theory to the extreme, but what are you getting?
This is gonna be in my mouth for a while.
Chew away.
Every texture?
So Rocky Road is traditionally basically chocolate, a little bit of butter, maybe some golden syrup or honey, that's then bound around a selection of either crumbled up biscuits, nuts, fruit, sometimes some marshmallow. Rocky Road or tiffin.
You've really got out of your way to prove a point here, Ben, because there are like tiny little bits of texture throughout that you crunch through, but then you've got sort of the gelatine heavy chew of a marshmallow. You've got what they're like jelly beans or something.
Jelly babies.
Jelly babies. The pistachios have a different crunch altogether, a harder crunch. It's mad. It's a mad mouthful. It's tasty.
When humans develop a keen sense of texture in food later on in adulthood, and that kind of goes back to the caveman era where texture was really important, especially if you went out and if you grabbed a berry and it's supposed to be nice and kind of crunchy and crispy, but all of a sudden it's soft, that it's bad and you spit it out. So it became a kind of sense of danger to not have textures that kind of compute. And so we as adults, young adults,
Speak for yourself.
have that keen sense. So I think that's why in my brain I kept going back to the crisp and crunch, because that usually is a good thing in nature. Whereas soft and gooey isn't always.
Yeah.
So that's why my brain was like, oh, this is good, danger. This is good, danger.
Thinking through the different textures, sort of the bounce of a marshmallow, the chew of dried fruit or glacé cherry, the crisp of actually shredded wheat rather than biscuits.
That's what it was.
That's crumbled up shredded
That's
wheat.
a game changer.
And
in
the
this,
reason
actually.
I think this is so key and why Dubai chocolate has become so popular, yes, the pistachio, which we've also got in there for like crunch of nut, and green, but actually it's that micro crunch.
Yeah, that
that's
is
all the
so
way through
true.
Dubai chocolate, which is why I think it has become so favourable, not least because it looks great on Instagram.
But the flavor of this is fascinating because it takes such a backseat. I haven't had something like that in a while, where like the texture is first and foremost.
Overrides the flavour.
The flavor, yeah.
Well, in that case, should we move on to round 4?
Yeah.
For a
I've
stimulant.
got to remember all the things that have been good about all of these dishes so that we can use them later.
Right.
Theory number 4.
Ooh, okay. You're really playing it fast and loose with bites.
Yeah, sure. Quite deliberately less bothered here by sweet, salt, sour, bitter, umami, but all the other sensations that make up food.
Okay, so what's he put on this? How's he?
I feel like a caveman with fire for the first time. I'm just like, ooh. Oh.
Have a
That's not
taste
what I
and
expected.
see what you get.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lady in the Tramp? No, oh, sorry. We don't know.
Oh, no,
each other
100%. I was sniffing first, leading into the lady.
I see.
I'm not going to say this is the best cocktail you've ever had in your life, but we are pushing the theory.
This is what you could buy from Whole Foods.
Oh, man. Oh, my mouth is tingling.
Oh, there's certainly some sensations. Okay.
Oh, my
Citric
lips.
acid on that,
Yeah.
or something.
Something that's giving you a bit of fizz.
Woohoo! It's certainly refreshing.
Yeah, that'll wake you up. I'm
Yeah.
gonna go in for seconds.
Spice.
There is a spice. There's both a little bit of chili heat, it's not strong, but we did shake some chili into it as well. But it's also clove around the top. So it is a numbing
It
sensation.
is numbing, yeah.
It's an interesting combination.
It works.
It works
It does work.
so well.
But there's a lot of sensations happening simultaneously.
So it's a tropical cocktail with passion fruit, mango, and pineapple. 11% ABV, so you are playing with the sensation of alcohol, which has a mouthfeel. But into that, we then shook and stirred spearmint for that menthol cooling
When you breathe
effect,
in.
That's what that is.
Yeah.
as well as some slices of chili for the sensation of burn, which is chili heat, a sensation rather than a taste. And then the rim around the outside has both citric acid and clove mixed with some sugar and stuck to honey. So you're getting,
It's alive
hopefully,
now.
I love it.
numbing, cooling, chili heat, alcohol burn, and
Then sweetness. And,
fizzy,
yeah.
or tangy.
And I think for me, what's really fascinating is this more than anything has played with the dimensions of my mouth, where I feel it on my lips, I feel it on my tongue, I actually feel it in the back of my throat, and that's kind of the pineapple that I'm feeling on the back of the throat with the passion fruit. And I just, like, it's everywhere in my mouth. It's like, you know, the trumpet kind of, but with my mouth.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't even describe, I'm at a loss for words.
This is, sensationally, it's everything that you spoke about all happening at once. Well, actually not all happening at once. They sort of build and flow in layers and you have different things coming through. The initial hit was boom, citric. Oh, it's so sour. And then it mellows out and you're like, no, my lips are numb. Oh, no, I can feel, okay, it's warming from alcohol. Oh, I can also feel chili. And then actually you feel all the tropical fruit coming through as well. And it's sweet and cool and very tasty.
There are other sensations up there for grabs, so that kind of numbing heat of Szechuan pepper, we've used clove, but also things you mentioned earlier with wasabi, which is that nasal heat, mustard, horseradish, wasabi, or perhaps just carbonation, so effervescence in itself. But all of those things, as well temperatures you mentioned earlier, the hot and cold combo, these are all sensations around food that sit outside of the basic flavors and 5 tastes.
Lots to consider.
Lots to digest.
How are we doing this next bit?
The question is, can we try and create our own dish now that uses as much of all of that thinking as possible in a single bite?
Right, so you've obviously got some sort of a plan. What's in your brain?
So, given where we are, I picked up some chicharrons, some Swiss cheese, was thinking sort of mustard, little cabana sandwich kind of thing with some Cuban cheese. But actually, we've filmed quite a lot here in the last 24 hours, so the fridge is full of stuff and leftovers, so we can just basically riff and roll.
Let's do it.
That.
Love it.
I'm gonna make a cheese custard, because why not?
Okay.
What can I do?
Yeah, what can he do?
Direct.
So I think the plan would be my cheese custard on the base of the plate, unctuous and warming, and then we can build from there. So texture from Mike, your Parmesan crisps is going to give you salty, crunch umami, the same way that the chicharron will. And Santi, if you sweat off some Swiss chard, some spring onion, plenty of black pepper and salt, that will be a nice body. And then we finish it with our caveman taste bud and sensation, so some hot sauce. We'll combine with dairy fat, give that a good dollop. And we can always finish it with a drizzle of honey and micro herbs or cress. Makes every dish look good.
So cheese custard, because I instantly look at that and I think it's a roux, and then it's like a cheese sauce based on a roux, but it's absolutely not. It's a cheese creamed custard.
So basically, same sort of custard or creme anglaise method, egg yolk, hot cream over. Normally you'd have sugar in the egg yolk, and that should thicken it. I've stabilised it with a bit of corn flour, because once you add in the cheese, you do absolutely need to heat it up, and you don't want to scramble a creme anglaise, so it gives you a bit of stability. But you should end up with basically a cheese custard.
This is
Look at a
fascinating to
gratinate.
me.
It would do. So you could, I mean, it's a very loose Welsh rarebit in that sense,
Yeah.
very loose, which would normally have more kind of roux flour in it as opposed to corn flour.
You know what? I am gonna be the pessimist here. I think everything we've had so far has been perfect in its own way, but putting it all together might just be too much. There is that element. Sometimes it just tips it over the edge.
Less can be more.
Yeah,
You can have too much theory.
You can have. Trust me, you can have way too much theory.
Well, there's some theory on a plate.
Who knows?
Who knows? But the key is to get an element of all of it
Yeah, that's gonna be the challenge.
for the one bite test. Sauce.
We've come such a long way.
I think I've got everything. Right, here we
Yeah.
go, everyone. Cheers.
Cheers. Wow. Very creamy.
It's high on the dairy fat, isn't it?
Yeah. There's a lot going on there. Yeah, the custard and the creme fraiche.
A double dairy fat hit, maybe too much.
Yeah, maybe. I can see the job they're doing, because you get the sourness, which is required, but actually the fact that it's a dairy sourness sort of fights a little bit with the custard.
The mustard and the hot sauce is
That's
giving
good.
two different types of heat, so that
I love
nasal
that.
heat sensation and the chili heat.
What's interesting when we're coming to the textures is almost between the sautéed veggies and the crisp of the pecorino, they're almost too far apart.
Yeah.
So there's almost too much contrast there, and my brain doesn't quite know what to do with it. Whereas everything else, it almost seemed like the contrast is a little closer together,
Yeah.
and complemented each other. Whereas this, they're just insulting each other.
You almost actually need maybe some roasted veg or some mushrooms on there, because actually even the wilted greens have wilted to a point where they're nice and soft and buttery and delicious. But again, you've not got that in between texture.
Yeah, I'm missing
you're
a
right.
chew. Like
You need,
a chew of
you need a
meat or
scale of
mushroom.
texture, not just the two extremes. Yeah, it's
Exactly.
an interesting point. And the pairing with the ferment, which has got
Completely.
orange peel and coriander seed, so it's our sorted collaboration Blanche beer, mid-strength, so it's only 2.5%, but a kind of relatively wheat, hazy-esque beer,
That goes together with
but orange.
some of the things on that plate. I don't know which ones.
I think the cheese custard with that, there's that is working together for me really, really well, because it's giving that little bit of acidity
Yep.
that it was missing for me. Because the hot sauce, it really isn't coming through with the creme fraiche. It's there's a flavor,
Yep.
but not the actual
Sensation.
heat and sensation. Exactly. It really is too much of too many good things.
Too much
Yeah.
of a good thing.
Well, I've learned a whole load of stuff, and I've learned a lot of stuff not to do as well. But that was way over the line. But like you said, I'm not sure how far over the line it was, because there are elements there that definitely do work.
Yeah, I mean, I think, harkening back to actually yesterday's discussion, this is an even amount of components. We should have gone odd. We needed one more thing.
One more or one less, either way. One thing I've learned is never stop questioning your food and always keep coming up with new theories. And for that reason, you should all go across and check out food theories. I'm sure you already have. Links down below. Santi and the team are epic.
We also filmed a video where Santi and Ben created the new fictional Taco Bell menu item. It was a complete blast. You definitely should go and check out that. We'll also link to that downstairs.